Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today, we are going to be hanging out with the magical, the amazing
Leeroy's musical journey. Oh, yeah.
So kick back for the next hour and a half to 2 hours as we delve into the musical genius that is Leeroy's musical journey. Here's a track, brand new, called Treading Water.
Chances are it's way out of sight. Can't handle that it's getting drier. This heat set my soul on fire. She prays for him, he prays for me. I pray for life and life's qualities. She writes a sign, shows it to me. How come there's no water when there is so much sea? Give shelter from the sun. This world there is only one. We shouldn't be overcome. I'm busy treading water. Shut off the lies you hear. Get out of second gear. Think of your sons and daughters. I'm busy treading water. Shows it to me. How come there's no water when there is so much sea? Give shelter from the sun. This world there is only one. We shouldn't be overcome. I'm busy treading water. Shut off the lies you hear. Get out of second gear. Think of your sons and daughters. I'm busy treading water. Give shelter from the sun. This world there is only one.
Good morning. I hope you're all doing good. We had a little bit of a delayed start, so I do apologise for being late. That's very tardy of me. The stupid thing was, I actually started the show, and the show was going, but I wasn't connected to the internet. So our guest was sitting there, and I'm looking at him going, he looks perplexed. Am I actually connected to the internet? And then I realised I wasn't, and I jumped back over and said, I'm not live, am I? These things happen. See, I've just like rejigged the studio, so a few things that I'm going to have to get used to. A bit disconnected today is exactly what's going on there, Andy. Anyway, I hope you're all doing good. It is Friday here in Australia. Normally I would say this is the end of the week for me and I've got a day off tomorrow, but that's all changing. Things are getting a little bit different here on the channel. So tomorrow I'm actually doing a show and we've got a new show starting on Sunday that you might be interested in. We'll tell you a little bit more about that maybe tomorrow, yeah? But today, finally, I've been really wanting this particular artist to come on the show for a really long time because I think, in my honest opinion, this artist is absolutely like overlooked, understated, very humble, and is just there all the time releasing really solid music that is of a super high level, yeah? And I'm always blown away when I see his music and video clips and when I see his cup. And I'm just always blown away by this particular artist's talent. So we'll bring him on in a second. I want to thank you all for being here today. Everybody in the chat, we'll do hellos, in say about 25 minutes time. And let's get down to it. So without further ado, let's bring on the Journey himself, the musical journey. And I'm not going to screw up and say magical journey, which I've been saying all week. I don't know why I say Leeroy's magical journey. Maybe there's something wrong with my brain. Anyway, without further ado, let's bring on the man himself. Get on my buttons right over here. We have Leeroy's musical journey. Boom. How'd he do?
G'day.
G'day.
How are you? G'day. G'day.
I was saying before the show, it's so good to have an Aussie on the show.
Fair truth. Yeah.
Fair dinkum.
Yeah.
Bob's your auntie. And yes, folks in the chat, we've got Leeroy, 2 Leeroy emojis today, so make sure you throw them around. Good fun. So up early for an interview. Are you used to getting up at this hour?
Sometimes, yeah. When I have to.
Right.
And for you.
Sometimes food, huh?
Yeah. Hey, but I look. Cheers.
Cheers. Excellent. As I said, look, I've been wanting to have you on this show for a long time because, much respect. When I see your video clips and your music, I'm like, man, there's not a lot of people out there who are capable of being a multi-instrumentalist. And, it's quite incredible to see you recreate these amazing covers you do. And that song there, Treading Water, that's just brand new. You just released that. So how did this Treading Water song come about?
I just had 2-3 hours to spare yesterday and just sat down and made it. That is, honestly, that's as simple as it is. I just sit down in front of my keyboard. Oh, yeah, this sounds okay. Yeah, add a bit of this, add a bit of that, and knock it out. That's just like that. Nothing's planned in my head, nothing.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of people now sitting there going, well, why can't that just happen to me?
Yeah, well, the wife says I'm autistic, sorry, I got that wrong. Yeah, but I don't know. I wish I could explain it. Yeah, I don't.
Does it help having a lot of, like, a room with a lot of fantastic gear around you that you can just walk in and just vomit whatever you're thinking onto it?
Well, yeah, because it's always just set up. It's always on draining our power bills. 100%. Because if I even have to turn the computer on, the moment might be gone. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't be asked. I'm not putting the computer on. There's a button. I'll just get on. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
Look, it's a mind-blowing achievement. Like, I heard that song yesterday. You sent it to me. And it was interesting. You sent me an email and went, look, I know I already sent you some songs, but I've just done this song. It's a bit inspired by Peter Gabriel. I misread it was like it's a Peter Gabriel song, and I wrote back and went, no, I can't play covers, mate. And then you're like, no, it's inspired. And it's funny because, like, if you hadn't have said that, I wouldn't have got that impression. To me, that sounded like you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's nice. I like it. Thank you.
Do you often, like, if you write an original, do you equate it to another artist?
I reckon that's probably, I don't know me, if that makes sense. So everything seems to somewhere have a line of what track I'm going down, I think. And as soon as I start playing, I think I'm going to take it this way and it's going to sound like this. And I always have an artist in mind, basically. I wish I was original. Maybe my originality is copying other people. I don't know.
Well, I think you are highly original, and I'm always gobsmacked by you. As I said, I'm not bullshitting you. I don't bullshit on this channel. I'm always gobsmacked by your compositions. They're beautiful, thought-provoking, and very well written, and instrumentation. Like it's a hard thing for artists to do. I think to put a song together and not overcomplicate it. And your songs are very not overcomplicated. Everything fits in its place. Do you, like, when you're putting together a song, do you get to a point where you put too much in and find yourself removing things?
I think a lot of people, and it's interesting when it even comes to my lyric writing, and I read some of the comments, and I feel bad sometimes for what the comments they write because they think I'm really emotionally invested in them. I'd love to say, yes, I am, but I'm very calculated, and I like the fact of doing something and doing something quick, really. Yeah, I should have a sausage factory, really. And so I'll literally, I've got to set a BPM for starters. Got to have a BPM because I'm not going to fluff around and do a verse twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be pace, get the job done. That's all. That's what it's about. So, I just nut it all out, and and I'll say, yep, that's a verse, that's a chorus, whack, bish, bash, bosh. To me, that's just how it comes, and I don't know.
It's a beautiful skill to have, I was up early this morning talking to Brad, chatting with Brad Example, and I've been putting my foot on his neck, saying, "Come on, man, you got to get work on this new album and stuff." And then I myself know I have this wonderful studio, and sometimes I walk in and go, "Wow, I have all this at my fingertips," and then I get overwhelmed by it and go, "Oh, it's so threatening. I'm leaving," and I run out the room going, "God damn, what have I done? I've created a monster." So, all right, let's get down to the important stuff. Lee, what does music mean to you?
I don't know. I think it's just, I guess it's a form of escapism and, just listening to different bands. And I think it tells a history of the world too a lot, and time. I think time actually more than anything. You listen to a song and it casts your mind back to that time, and and that's where the 80s, I think, in particularly are good. Probably for my age in particular. I'm not sort of denying that there's probably most definitely better music made in the 60s and the 70s, but I don't think anything tugs on the mind and the heartstrings as much as the 80s and all those classic bands. And even though I'm Australian, I was born in the UK, and so I've got a lot of affinity with pommy bands. We're allowed to say pommy, you pommy
We
bastard.
We are.
Yeah.
all the US people are going, what the hell is that? We have no idea. Don't worry, stay in the dark, Americans.
Yeah. So going back to, I'll quickly explain that. Going back 200 years ago when Australia started, these boats came over with these convicts from England, and basically they settled in Australia. There's lots of other stuff I'll veer and stay well away from. And so POM stands for two things, either prisoner of Her Majesty or prisoner of Mother England.
Yeah.
So when someone says a POM, it's kind of supposed to be affectionate, but it's a bit rude.
Yeah, it's a grey line, isn't it? It's kind of like WOG, Look at that term, I grew up when I was growing up as a kid here in Australia, WOG was such a bad thing. And then all of a sudden, all those immigrants, Italians, and they took the word and they turned it into a multi-million-dollar business, like Wog's out of work, Wog's and this, Acropolis now, and then, Wog was no longer a bad thing. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's the way you should take on things. I should start a TV show called Tranny. I've just been cancelled right now by the transgender community. So you talk about like the 80s, and like I'm an 80s person. I grew up in the 80s, and I remember at the time when 80s music was happening, because I was listening to metal as well. But I was kind of in school at the time, and they wouldn't let me sing in the school band and do metal stuff. So it was all contemporary music. And I remember at the time thinking, what is all this synth crap? And now years on, 2023, 80s music is still so compelling. What do you think it was about the 80s music that still just bites?
I think it is. I think mainly the synths. If it was the synths to me, and like your Gary Newman starting in the late 70s really was one of the pioneers. Obviously you can have lots of debates and craft work and all this, but to an English speaking population, I mean, and certainly to me, I was in the UK at the time. It was Gary Newman, and actually in England, parents had a milk bar. What would they call? I don't know. Milk bar, news agency, general store, and it was in Reading, Northumberland Avenue in Reading, and Gary Newman would come in. Yeah, he didn't have a car. Spoiler alert.
That's
what a bastard.
That's the greatest thing. That's the only thing you remember.
Yeah.
Gary Newman would just come in. Bastard didn't have a car.
Yeah, so here he is in his car. Yeah, no, bullshit. I'm calling all that. He didn't have one. Yeah. Yeah. And other ones like Human League. Human League, that was a great one, wasn't it? And, Ultravox. Yep. They were a bit moody. They were a moody band. And, and all those sort of things. And, Fata, Grey, and I don't know, just stuff. And then you had your comical bands like Hazy Fantasy singing Shiny, Shiny. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Oh, I used to love that video clip. Yeah. It was a bit saucy.
And I remember a song. Was this the 80s? The Stutter Rap.
Oh, yeah. The Morris Minor and the Majors.
Well, no one's ever seen what I mean from the age of 13. We've all been caught in the mouth trap. So join with us in the Stutter Rap. What the hell?
Oh, great days.
Yeah.
And it's like everything. And that's why we like people. Often we don't like people for their good things. We like people for the fact that we can pay out on them. And you know what I mean? And I think the 80s was that testament to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Australia really soaked up a lot of English music too during the 80s. Like, we had Countdown here and Molly Meldrum and Michael Gudinski, rest your soul, my dear friend. Constantly we had so much British pop music coming over. I mean, if it wasn't for Australia, probably half those bands wouldn't have made it, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, that was so true. And I mean, they rabbit on about that with ABBA in the 70s, and it was Australia that got them. Yeah.
And we did our best to get rid of the rubbish from here. I mean, we sent Craig McLachlan over to the UK and Rolf Harris.
Yeah.
We tried to get rid of the dirt, and they kept him. It was probably Russ who was like petitioned to keep Rolf Harris there. Sorry, Russ. I went there.
And that's what Chris Craig's song was, Hey Mona, wasn't it?
Man.
Hey Mona.
Terrible stuff.
I just, do the audience tonight, have you ever heard of Craig McLachlan? I know you would have, Greg, but anyone else?
No, come on. I don't know if you ever saw it. So Craig McLachlan he was doing stand-up comedy, and he went on the Footy Show one night. And he did. You look for it on YouTube when this is finished. Have a look for it. He went on Footy Show. He did a stand-up routine, and one of the jokes was, "What's worse than poo?" And somebody yelled out, "You!" And then they all booed him, and they basically brought the hook out and they dragged him off stage and went, "Oh shit!" Because it was live. I think it was their grand final show. It was one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened on national TV. Craig McLachlan doing stand-up. Revolting. Anyway, let's talk about the music that you recall being played in your household when you were young. What kind of music, when you were running around the house, being a gangster, what were your parents playing, and did it influence you?
Look, the main thing I remember was cassettes in the car was the big thing. Not
Yeah.
music get played at home, but you'd have the cassette in the car, and my dad would play to death Tubular Bells. He used to love that, and he had the best of Glenn Campbell. The best of Glenn Campbell. Yeah, Tubular Bells. Gladys Knight and the Pips for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And Dire Straits. Yeah, that would be the ones that I remember hearing more than anything in the house. Yeah, and Demis Roussos.
Oh man, my mum had a thing for Demis Roussos, and I'd just look at the album covers and go, "What's the attraction to this guy? He looks like a hobbit."
And she would listen to him forever and ever
and ever I'll be.
Yeah.
Man, we grew up in the same household. Almost. That thing would be on forever.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the chat know Demis Roussos? Are there any Demis Roussos fans here in the chat? Oh man.
In fact, you're wearing Nana Muscuri's glasses, I think.
I am, yes.
Speaking of which, small world.
I've got worse ones here that make my eyes gigantic. But there you go. They're Nana Muscuri ones. I don't need them today. But Demis Roussos, isn't it funny how, like, in the old days, I say the old days, but the 70s and 80s and stuff, people didn't necessarily have to be super attractive to be popular.
No, that's why I wish I was back then.
Same here.
Yeah, try and travel and go back to then, yeah.
But these days, like, music is like, it seems like they find someone first, get their look happening, and then go, all right, you look the part now, let's put you in a studio, auto-tune you up the wazoo, put you out, package you. I mean, could you imagine Demis Roussos now? I just couldn't see it.
No, it'd be the skibbity bop bop guy. Yeah.
And, talking about the 80s, I find this very fascinating. During the 80s, there was a lot of really very camp stuff happening. Yeah, and again, Hugh points out here, Demis wore a dress. He wore like a big caftan or thing. But this is where I'm heading with this too. In the 80s, we had Boy George and Marilyn, and everyone was so gay. It was ridiculous. And now we're in this time where people are like, they're freaking out over it, like, oh my God, that dude's dressed up as a woman. And it's like, you do realize you grew up with all of this shit that was doing that already. What happened?
Yeah, exactly right. And I used to Divine.
Yeah,
remember Divine? And the John Waters movies like Pink Flamingo, and there was a few of them around.
Yep.
And I loved those films. He was very warped, but I mean, yeah, that's what I liked about it.
Ate shit.
And, yes,
literally.
Yeah, I remember watching that for media studies. I did a thesis on it. Yeah, so yeah, it's
Dude, that was a good one.
Good stuff. Thanks. Try the bill. Yeah, you're exactly right. And you had your bands like Human League and Phil Oakey, like all toddled up and put Lippy on.
Bronski Beat. Even in the metal scene, you had Poison and Motley Crue, and half of them looked like women. And now these days, the whole world's like upside down, and the far right are blaming everything on trans people. It's like, bitch, you were probably listening to, Boy George when you were young. What happened to you?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
It's a strange place that we're in right now, this world. Do you remember what the first album was that you purchased with your own money?
I reckon it just about would have been Dark Side of the Moon.
What a good album.
I mean, it's very predictable, but I was a cassette collector as well. And because I remember at school predominantly, you could go into the library at lunchtimes and you could sit in a corner.
Yes.
I didn't have any friends because they picked on me from a Pommy accent. And I would sit there and you could put headphones on and I'd take my cassettes in and listen to them at lunchtime. And probably my two first cassettes I would have bought was Ringo Starr's "Stop and Smell the Roses" and Madness 7, which had a lot of their hits on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say you had a Pommy accent, because the first thing I noticed when we jumped on the call today, I was like, geez, I thought I had an Aussie accent.
Oh, really?
You sound, to me, you sound like full blood Bogan.
Well, thanks very much. I'll put on my Roger Moore voice. Yeah. Yes.
No, it's
Yeah,
great.
no,
It's good to
I think
hear.
I've got, yeah.
It's good to
You
hear a
got kicked
familiar
out.
voice. So
Yeah, I'm interested in how Greg O'Sullivan sounds. Whether he sounds like how Aussie he does, because I can always pick as soon as you're watching a series of TV shows and suddenly some Aussie will be on it, and all of a sudden you go, "Oh, have a listen to him." I hope I don't sound like that. And you just validated that I do. Thanks very much, Dad.
yeah, I was watching the wrestling yesterday, and there's an Aussie who's like just joined, and he came out to the crowd yesterday, and they were booing him, and he went, "Shut up, you wankers!" It was so funny to hear. I just couldn't stop laughing at it. Hearing, "Yeah, get lost, you wankers." It just.
Jeez. So, what was your first album anyway? What was your?
I was Kiss, Unmasked.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my nana gave me that. She got it from God, what was the place? It's a place that doesn't exist anymore. It's like $3.99. I remember it's always having the price tag $3.99 for a fucking album. How things have changed. I've told this story before. Like when I was young, and my dad used to, because I always believed I was trans from a very early age, and I used to get caught dressing up in girls' clothes, and my dad would get so psycho about it, be like, "Grr!" And I remember him saying one day, if you do it again, I'm gonna dress you up like a girl and send you to school." And I was like, "Is that punishment?" And then for Christmas, he went, "All right, so I bought you something for Christmas. I know you like this heavy metal stuff, so I got you this album for Christmas." It was bloody Poison, Look What the Cat Dragged In, which had like 4 men looking like women on the front. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you anyway? What about the first album that was given to you by somebody as a gift? Do you remember that?
No, I don't actually. I don't reckon actually anyone ever bought me one, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no. So actually, no. My first album that was given to me was probably about 5 years ago, and it's a autographed album by Travis. Travis, the Scottish band. Why Does It Always Rain?
Yeah.
I've got an autographed album.
Are they still around?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're making actually some good albums. They're not paying me for this. They're Scottish because they're Scottish, so they'd be too tight. But they are washed. They're making some great albums. Yeah, in fact, their last album had a duet with Susanna Hoffs from the Bangles.
Right.
Yeah, good album.
It's interesting how bands have hits and then just kind of fade away into obscurity, but they're still going. And I have my favorite bands like Faith No More and stuff, who I still will say, "Oh yeah, Faith No More did this," and people will go, "Oh yeah, I remember their song Epic." It's like, yeah, they had 5 albums after that. So no matter, there's a lot of bands that happen with this. Is it just the pressure that they have a great album that comes out, it does really well, and then there's this pressure, and then whatever else they release doesn't seem to catch fire?
Yeah, it's interesting, and they always seem to they always start on some big label, and then they leave that label and go on to some sort of independent. I think that they go into the independent label, so then they just don't get the the
traction.
Traction. That's a good word.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm writing that.
I mean, it's a thing these days. Independent. I mean, it's so easy to release music yourself and do it all yourself now. Why would you, let people invest in you? I don't know if you've ever been signed to someone before. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had being signed to a label. Twice. I got burnt twice, and it just ended up me owing money forever. because they went, hey, we like your music. Here's a shitload of money. And when you're young, you go, thanks for that money. Now let's do something irresponsible with it, like take drugs. Oh, no, I forgot I have to give that money back. Whoops. And then they're like, cool, we're going to keep your music. No, don't do that. The music industry. So let's play another song. I'm going to play a song called Fly South. Do you want to tell us about this track?
It was one of those that falls into the criteria like all of them, where I just sit down and I just fiddle around with the keyboard. Keyboards normally just come first, and I'm, yeah. And actually, I thought it was a bit basic, and I had it set like a basic outline of an instrumental piece, and I thought it was a bit basic. So I just sat for 3 months, 4 months, and one day when I just couldn't be asked, being creative, I thought I'll bring up this and see if I can do something. And then I added a bit more stuff over the top, and it sort of became this song. Yeah, which I quite like it, but I'm biased.
Yeah, I like it too. That's why I'm playing it. Let's do it, folks. Grab yourself a cup. I've got a few. And kick back and let's play this track. This is called Fly South. Let's do it right now. Boom.
Except for you.
Yeah. Now, there's something, again, like I said in the beginning of the show, that mix and all the instruments in that song are so clean and everything I could hear so well. I mean, you've really got a knack of creating very clean sounding music that's easy to hear everything. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm anal or matron. No, it's I don't know. I think because when I started on here, my daughter had her own YouTube channel, and because she sings, and I was doing some of the backing music, and hence I started doing my own music, and I put something on her channel, and she said, "Oh, take that off, Dad," you know. So that's when I started. That's when I started my own channel. Yeah, you're embarrassing me, you know. And she was probably right. And so that's actually the first time. So I've only learnt this, like making music, literally in the last, say, 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
I've never touched thing. I probably played keyboards. I started keyboards in the last 10 years. I always knew where notes were, and that D came after C, which is very handy. Very handy. And and I don't know, just with Cubase, I watch a lot of YouTube, and just, and just more follow the adage: if it doesn't sound right, then it's not right. Yeah,
absolutely. That is the key, isn't it? No, but that's the key. I mean, people sit there and obsess over, I've got to know the circle of fifths, and if you can hear if it sounds stupid, if it doesn't work, like you can hear it assaults your ears. It sounds wrong. Let's say hello to everybody, because I want to delve into that and how you got to. I'm stunned that it's only taken so long. Let's say hello to everybody here. So if you want to type something to me to make my job easier, folks, that helps. Many Vibes is here, and Tremor Bear, and Thomas Christ, of course, and Michael Thompson. Andy's here. I see Hugh Caldwell. Hello to you, and Tremor Bear. Christopher Rossi, what's going on? Long time no see. Also, I saw Pete Johns here at the start of the show. There's Leeroy sitting in the chat as well. Greg O'Sullivan, what's going on? You mentioned about Greg's voice, and he's very quiet. I've heard him on Thomas Christ had a Patreon stream where we all just jumped on and had a chat, and Greg popped up. He's very meek and quiet. So, who else is here? Who else do I got here? Let's see. Is anyone else? We got Cold Acre. Hello. What's going on, my friend? We have to have a phone call soon. I haven't spoken to you for ages, mate. Kinger's Music is here. Ray Pierce, hello to you. Jenny Jolivet. I saw Ron as well earlier. And Michael, what's going on? Doug Kidder, hello to you, my friend. Good to see you all. Thank you for hanging out. And if I have missed you, I'll try and catch you again as we go on, but we've got a guest here, so let's get into it. Now, you say you've only been doing music for 2.5 years or whatever, so did you have lessons or anything at school? Was music something throughout school?
I did music as in music class from year 7, so high school. I did music class, so not learning an instrument, just we'd sit in the class and you'd have to go ta ta ti ti ta ti 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 ta ta. That's the one.
Really?
Yep, you got it. Yep. And all that sort of rubbish, And
right.
So no, I've never had an actual instrument lesson, except for one day at school, they had the guitarist from Little River Band came.
Oh, what?
And I learned 12-bar blues on a classical guitar. Yeah. And like the guy that had his neck fused, I haven't looked back. Yeah. So that's the extent of it. So that was it. Although the teacher in the first year at school down here in Geelong was actually Shane Howard from Goanna.
Oh, geez, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that would have been 80. I reckon about 84 would have been at that start of high school. Yeah, something like that. 84, he was, for the first year. And then I had this 85-year-old lady with lack of bladder control and bad breath. Bless, by gods. Yeah.
I'm waiting for a punchline.
No, there isn't. No. No, I stick to the facts.
And then I fucked her or something. I don't know.
You know I don't kiss and tell, Jade. I shag and shout.
You know, when you said about a fused neck, I'll tell you a little story. I've never shared this with anybody. I don't know if you may know this. So there used to be a TV show on, maybe about maybe 10 years ago, and it had that blonde chick who used to be on Denton's show. It's called like the Friday Lounge Room or something.
Amanda Keller.
Yeah, Amanda Keller, and she had this guy on there who was on one of those home improvement shows, and I can't remember his name, right? And for I hated the show. I found it really obnoxious and pretentious, but I'd watch it every week just to hate watch it. And this guy, he sat on the couch, and whenever he moved, he'd be like, "This." Right? And so he advertised his Twitter on the show, and I stupidly wrote my comment to him and went, "I really like your show, but I wish you would turn your head." And he wrote back to me and said, "Well, funny story about that. I was in a tragic accident. I've had my neck fused and I can't." And I felt so bad. I took the piss. And I private messaged him, was going, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know." Yeah.
Oh.
And there's a reason I've never told that story.
Oh, poor Barry.
That's his name, Barry.
Oh, Barry, yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. So you had your singing. Was it singing lessons with the teacher with the bad breath or not?
No, it was just music. You know, it was just learning. Yeah.
Did you?
And we'd listen in class to bits of music like Peter and the Wolf. You know.
Right.
And I'm thinking, when's the Wolf come on? You know. And, but yeah, and stuff like that. So I did that up to year 10. And my first piece of music that I kind of did on any instrument, which was with one finger on a piano, was we were doing time signatures, you know, and working out what they were, which I struggled with at the time. What's this 3/4 business? You know, talking bollocks. and I did the theme tune to George and Mildred. Now, that's the good life.
Oh no, it is a good life. It's a bloody good life.
It is. And that was probably the first piece that I properly played. And I had this acoustic guitar, like one of those ones, you know, that's, I don't know, it's slightly taller than a midget. And I had that for years from about the age of 6, and all I would play was the bottom string. So the other strings, no, get lost. I was just that one, and I was just ting, ting, tang, ting, ting, tang. Yeah. And that was it. And I was in my element. And yeah.
Did you get a recorder to take home?
Yes. And aren't they shithouse? And I'm reliving that now slightly because.
Have you got one now?
I've got one. Actually, I always have one. Yeah. Yeah.
It's always by your side. Look at that. Oh, remember, you even keep it in a bag. Yeah. I can't even hear.
It must be. It must cut it out, which is very fortunate.
Yeah.
That was. Anyway, if for the hearing impaired, I was doing the theme tune to Some Mothers Do Have 'Em.
Oh, Betty, you did a whoopsie in my beret.
Leave it there. I'll put it out in the morning.
Man, you won't see TV shows like that ever again, will you?
No, probably a reason.
Yeah.
But they were great. And I love the goodies too. The goodies.
The goodies are next level, man. Next level.
They were great.
For those in the UK, and Americans wouldn't even know what the goodies is. We used to get the goodies on here at 5 p.m. or something, 6 p.m. on ABC every night.
It was generally before or after Monkey.
Yeah, Monkey Magic. Yeah. Great shows. A lot of people in the US miss out on these fantastic shows. When I think about The Good Life, I always think about that Young Ones episode where Vivian jumps through the thing going, "No, we're not watching The Bloody Good Life. Felicity, Treacle, Kendall, and Richard Sugar-Flavoured Snot Bryant." It's so good. They're so bloody nice, and I hate them. Wicked stuff.
She was nice. But I reckon Felicity Kendall was probably one of my first crushes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did
Yep.
the old,
Yep.
mind you. That reminds me. I've got a few cups here today. We'll get to the cups. Music wasn't a thing. But did you like want to play music around that time?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, this all then gets along with too. You know, you hit the age of being a teenager and you knock about with some mates, and they have guitars, and you suddenly then making a band. You know, and we had this band, and it was called Frontal Lobotomy. Was the name of it, and yeah. And it was just a punk band, and it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 of us that turned up, and we'd set up in a lounge room or someone's garage. And I remember once, I'm so glad they thought of me, because I was on a trip to Adelaide at a funeral, and when I came back, they'd written a song called Lee's Granny Died. Classic if you haven't heard it. Yeah. Yeah. And and it was just those 3 chords, and just some lousy drumming going on. And I've still got the cassettes though, and I still listen to them. I should remaster them or do something. I don't know.
Did you guys gig? Did you play any shows?
Did here in Geelong. Yeah, I did a couple. Yeah, and that was the start and the end of my career, basically. Yeah, music career.
So it's interesting, like you're in Geelong, and Aussies will get this. So you're in Geelong. I grew up in Bacchus Marsh. We've got Greg's in the Marsh, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's in the Marsh. We're kind of around the same area. And I remember being a kid, and my dad used to say this every time we went through Geelong, because we used to go to the footy a lot. My family were a Melbourne supported team, even though I braked for South Melbourne. I was the odd one out always. And I got dragged along to all the Melbourne games. And we'd go up to Cardinia Park all the time to watch footy. And Dad would go, all right, it's in Geelong this week. Fucking get ready for all the wood ducks of Geelong. And I had no idea what that meant as a kid. I'm like, oh, wood duck? Oh, I guess. And Dad would seriously go to Geelong at these matches and start fights with people in the crowd and be like, you fucking wood duck. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, Dad? It's like kids. Like, what is it? Oh, man. But Geelong's a fascinating place. Have you been there your whole life?
Yeah. In fact, and it is. There's some dodgy areas, and yeah, that's for sure. Like anywhere, but yeah,
Yep.
been here all my life since then. So yeah, I was born in Southampton and came out at the age of basically 10 or thereabouts, and lived in Geelong ever since. Yep. Yes, but it's got everything kind of going for it's good. You got the beach nearby, you got shops, you got everything you need. You got eBay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we have eBay at Geelong.
Many Vibes says, "What's a wood duck?" So I didn't know for the longest time. It's a what do you call it? So if you're going out shooting ducks, you would use a wood duck to. Is that right? You would put it on the river as a wooden duck to draw other ducks in. Am I right?
Yeah.
There you go. Education with Jade today. So he's in a band, a decoy. That's the word I was looking for, Doug. Thank you very much. So you're in a band. Did you think that this was going to lead to somewhere like rock and roll? Did you have aspirations of being a star?
No, never. No. Right. No, and in fact, my mates were too busy getting stoning, basically at this point, getting a bit older, and I was more interested in the ladies, I guess you could say, and yeah, shame they weren't interested in me, but not to worry. But anyway,
that's a perfect place for ladies to be in a band.
Yeah, and I was the sensible one, I was like they were happy to do that and be unemployed and all this. I just wanted to work, earn a living, and then of course your sensible pants come on, and before you know it, you don't do anything that you probably wish you had. So, but that doesn't matter because other good things happen in your life. But
absolutely, and it doesn't matter because I've interviewed I think this is 107 or 108 people on this show, and it's such a common story that people. I'm not saying that you're common or anything, but it is common that people go through, have a fascination with music, get to a point where they have to put on their adult pants, do the adulting, do all that stuff, and then hit a point where it's like, well, I still haven't done this thing that I love. And here you are making some of the best music around. It's quite a feat, especially when you say you've only been doing this for, what, 2.5 years?
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I just and not to discredit anyone that does it, one thing I really struggle to do, and you'll never see me on my channel really, is I won't pick up a guitar and play a guitar, and sing over the top of a guitar. Whilst I definitely appreciate anyone can do it, because my memory is Scheisenhausen. I will literally forget the words in 2 blinks of an eye, after the first verse and cock it up. And so full kudos to anyone that can sing a song from start to finish. I mean, really, my music exposes why I'm no good live, if that makes sense, and can't do it. But at the same token, I'm not a fan of going and watching someone perform and do an entire set of a guitar and just voice. My brain needs more to keep me occupied. I think it's probably a male thing a little bit. I can't do 2 things at once either. Yeah. And so I find I do have to introduce stuff as well, and instruments. And I think the fact of being coherently lazy, is where I find using a DAW and everything like that. And it sounds complicated, but once you learnt it, it actually makes things easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And well, I can hear what you just said in your music, that you're a composer.
Yeah.
I definitely think you're a composer, because as I said, like it's rare that I hear a lot of modern music use percussion so well. You use a lot of percussion in your music, and you can add percussion to a music and totally fuck a song. Right? People can overdo it. I do hear a lot of that stuff, and you use percussion really well. So when I hear your songs, and because of the covers that you do too, which we can't play any of that stuff today, but I'll show some images later, how you put up all the shots of you playing each individual instrument. That really shows too that you're a composer, because clearly there's all these pieces you put together, bring it all together. And you don't seem like that person who's just going to sit there and play a guitar and sing.
Yeah, in fact, the music, making the or playing the instruments is, I wouldn't say I detest it. I'm just looking for the finished product, and the moment I can put my instruments down, knowing that I've played all the bits, and then just sit comfortably with a coffee and start mixing and fiddling around and settings, that's when I'm in my element, really. The instruments is a means to an end, if that makes sense. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I'm going to play one of these collabs that you've sent me. So we've got one here with Forrest of the Wolf, who I see is here. Hello, Forrest. Good to see you. Do you want to tell us how this collaboration came around?
Yeah, well, Mark's, he is absolutely amazing with the stuff he does, and to be honest, he leaves me to dead because he's posting like really creative bits of music, every second or third day that are just mind blowing. And he sent me a piece of music, and it's like, can you turn this and add to a song? And he gives me total poetic license, so I'll take his music. What I love about Mark too is he does use a click, so I can always count on it being in time. That's one of the hardest things to do, I find, if I'm mixing or adding additional instruments to someone's work, is if they haven't got it in time. And it may not even be you may not even notice to the ear, but when you import it into your DAW, it all ends up out of whack to the click, and then you can't play a bit or add an additional instrument and use that same part further down the track if you're timing slightly out from when it was at the beginning. Mark's work is just precision, and he'll send me a piece like he did with this one that's about to be played, and he gives me full poetic license with it. So a part of that music that potentially was at the end of his piece actually goes to the beginning of the song, and I might even add or double a particular area, and and just mess around, add some additional instruments, add some lyrics and sing, and that's basically it. in a nutshell. I do very little really with Marks, except just to add probably some keyboards just for the fun of it, and solo playing guitar solos, on that one little string. Ding, 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 ding.
All right, let's play this sucker. This is When the Sky Turns Red. We'll see you back here shortly. Enjoy. Let's do it now. Boom.
Another year's gone past. I'm walking back to where it started. I think it's gonna last. Don't have the time to be downhearted. Pass me that hand. Don't make a scene. There is lots of time. If you're still keen, I will take you there when the sky turns red. It will lead us through our times of dread. We can leave when you say the word. I will understand. I will take you there when the sky turns red. It will lead us through our times of dread. We can leave when you say the word. I will understand. The clouds have passed, the end's in sight. We missed our chance until tonight. I could take you back when the sky turns red, but it brings us back to the space we left. We can leave when you say the word. I will
Yeah, wicked stuff. Now, Forrest, you're right. Forrest makes amazing music, and the one thing I always think is it's lacking a really good vocalist all the time to really back it up. So having you added onto that, I don't know why you guys don't make it a permanent thing, because you really work well with his music.
Yeah, it's great. Absolutely, I kind of agree. But
Yeah.
Mark's not monogamous. Is that the word? Monogamous.
He likes to play around.
Yeah. But I think we've done about 6 so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got an album. Yeah. I think the next one should probably be some like 17-minute one. Or something to put on the other side. And that will give me a chance to go and have that poo if you play it on the next one. So
people are going, what the hell is that all about?
Yeah.
We were talking. Do I need to go?
Yeah, you may as well.
Before the show, folks, we were talking about the need before you go live or do something, how you always seem to go need a poo before you start. It happens to me every morning on this show. I can't believe I'm saying this to people.
I'm just glad we didn't shake hands.
I'm on the air. What is happening? What is going on? So I'll tell you one thing I want to mention to you. Now, I know Russ8889's here, and he's got a new album coming out too, which I've mastered, and it's a killer album. And I always think that Russ has had Vero do some vocals. I think you would be awesome to do some vocals on some of Russ's material.
I'm always flattered. I'll sing on anyone's, but I always say, as a singer, I make a good sewing machine. So it's the last thing I plan on doing is singing. It's the biggest afterthought writing words. It's the biggest afterthought singing it. It's the last thing I do. Yeah. And so when someone says it's good, I'm probably more flattered about that than I am spending 10 minutes working out some, bloody solo or something. That to me takes more work. So. And
someone asked here in the chat, let me scroll and find during that song. Major Wizard, was it? Asked, do you use iOS? So I know the show's called How to Up on iOS, but when we do these interviews, we have people who make music across all spectrums, because if we just limit it to iOS, that's kind of being a bit silly. But because, there are so many ways to make music these days. I, for one, have chosen iOS. I'm really happy with it because of the touch interface. But we are blessed for ways to make music. Did you think when you were a youngster that we would have this kind of technology in front of us now?
No, it's just amazing, and you probably know yourself. Like, and when I was in this frontal lobotomy band, some friend bought their Tascam, 4-track recorder thing for us to have a go on, and at the time we thought that was amazing that we could actually do something and record some instruments playing together, and that sort of thing. And to see how it is now, and when you watch stories about this, is where really it's great that we're doing all this and it comes out well, but it's when you truly appreciate the talent of people back in the early 80s, like Trevor Horn from the Buggles and and all these other great producers, that we've had, and their albums, and Alan Parsons, all those sorts, because they were doing this all by hand and on tape, and we're just sat here now in the leisure of our own room, with a coffee and just nutting it out in minutes. Yeah, it's remarkable. But yeah, I feel a bit of a cheat, to be honest, when I look back to the old days.
I was privileged enough as a kid to record on a lot of tape in studios. When I started recording when I was 15, and I remember first experience going into a studio, 15 years old, just going, the fuck, and having to, pay for the tape. And then at the end of it, you're handed these reels in a box, and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do with these things? We'll store these away. And it was so much harder. I wasn't behind the desk, but just watching, sitting there, I know, because we were paying a lot of money. Whenever you went and recorded in a studio, it cost a lot of money. So I would sit there the whole time when I wasn't having to sing or play guitar on parts, and just sit over the engineer's shoulder, just watching everything going, wow, and just watching him with the tape and going, this is amazing. Like and I've said this on this show before. Like one of the songs I was recording, I had the flu, and I couldn't hit this note at all. I just could not do it. And even back then, the engineer was like, "It's all right. Just sing it in a lower tone, like bring it down." And he slowed the tape down. And I went in and sung it and went, "I'll take you to the promised land." And then he sped the tape back up, and you can't even tell. It was amazing. So even then, people were doing amazing things with tape. And I'm in the same boat as you. I sit here and record on iOS and do take after take and go, this is mind-blowing. It's ridiculous.
They had that ingenuity, you see. That's where we're now allowing a computer to make these ideas for us. But back then, they were coming up with those ideas and how to do it. I think, like that one of the big ones is, that Beatles song "In My Life," and that piano, that sound, it's like a harpsichord. That part, ding, 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 ding. And that was a classic one where I can't believe, because I did a cover of that and played it at full speed, and it was blooming hard. Well, it turns out it was done on half speed on a piano, and the fact that it was then sped up to full speed made it sound like a harpsichord, and that was the genius of someone like George Martin, and what do we do now? Rely on pressing a button to do our thinking for us, really.
Well, thankfully, making music on iOS, you still have to kind of think like that, because iOS is still such a new technology that is really starting to blossom now. So even now, we just got Logic on iPad, and it still doesn't have simple features you would expect. So I'm finding I'm having to release videos on this channel showing people how to export MIDI to be able to put it into another DAW, because the feature's not in there. So we're still, for some reason in 2023, having to find these stupid workarounds to do the simplest thing. I hope Apple pull their finger out and sort that out, because it is what it is. But now, speaking about computers doing everything for us, I hear you're a little bit of an artificial intelligence fan. What do you think of all this madness that's going on?
Yeah, it's a classic, and I can certainly see both sides to where people don't like it, but I don't know what's the best way. I mean, I don't want to sound rude when I say this, but I found it was interesting. I took mine basically all down off my channel. I love just dabbling with it. I did it for dabbling purposes, really, and even from a producing aspect, because it was just remarkable. And I think people think, actually, I'm going to go back on what I was saying before, that there's some magic button you press and all of a sudden you've got the voice of Charles Aznavour playing out, and it's not that simple. And as you know, you've just done one, and it actually involves more work. And and once, for instance, I was still singing them. They were all me singing them, and actually singing them and relying on trying to get certain their gestures in the vocals. It's interesting because I noticed there's ones on there where the Beatles are singing Bohemian Rhapsody, but you can change Freddie Mercury's voice into Paul McCartney, but you've still got to get the phrasing and everything that would do. You can't just copy it over. And that's where I was recording songs, and predominantly originals, and making them in that style. And you got a lot of negative comments. My view really with it is, if you don't have any talent and are using AI in order to achieve that, then I can see that that's kind of wrong. But if you kind of had the talent anyway, then there should be an appreciation that you're just doing it because you can. Does that make sense? A bit hard to articulate, but I can see where it'll clearly fall into the wrong hands. But I think, if you've been able to pay your dues and you're able to sort of say, well, I would normally sing and I would normally play the bass, I'd normally play the saxophone, I'd normally play guitars and keyboards, I'd do all of this. So please don't crucify me in the comments if I just suddenly decide to do this, do this one little thing. So anyway, I just found I took them off because it just wasn't worth the adverse comments, even though it was quite interesting, because it's with the adverse comments become more subscribers, if anything. So
yeah, negativity, positivity drives interest. Look, I'm more leaning to the positive side of AI. I think we live in a world at the moment where everybody wants to just shit on everything. It shows even on YouTube. Like for some reason there's this subsect of human beings who go around to every video on YouTube and go, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I mean, I could only imagine waking up next to that piece of shit every day going, what don't you like now? Like, and so I understand that there's going to be people, there's going to be job losses, but if we're really honest as a species, through every age of humanity, there's been improvements of technology and there's been job losses. Like this isn't a new thing. And I know we're living in a world at the moment where ADHD is a prerequisite to be alive, and we can't seem to hold on to watch something for longer than 3 minutes. But we really need to focus on the past and realize that this shit has happened before. The industrial age was a perfect example of that. So I think it's going to, the positives are going to outweigh the negatives, definitely. And I think it's going to be a great way to push humans to create more art and, creativity that is from the soul and the heart, because that's the one thing AI can't do. It doesn't have heart. And that's, to me, when you listen to music, it's got to emote. And I've not heard anything from AI, even artwork, that's made me go, nothing so far. And I still don't think AI is going to be able to do it. So I think the panic's a bit ridiculous. I saw somebody write on an AI video the other day saying, yeah, but if the AI gets hold of the nuclear codes, I'm thinking, you do realize that the computers around the world that control nuclear codes, they're less powerful than a 486. They run on floppy drives and they're not even connected to the internet.
And look at the humans we're entrusted with that power. So why would that be a problem if it was the case, ultimately?
I did everything right and they indicted me.
But it's interesting you say, like, with the comments on there, like, I found I'd get these occasional real negative comments, and whether it wasn't done or that's not how they would sound, because they knew them so well. And I'd say, oh, look, thanks for that. I'll check out your channel to see how you do it. And then I write another reply underneath, oh, I just checked your channels. You don't have any videos. Let me know when you do, and I'll come and check it out. And that's what I found. It was such a common denominator that the people that were leaving negative comments had no subscribers and no uploaded videos. And you think, how hard do you think it was? I know the other day someone actually, I did a Supertramp cover of It's Raining Again, and it's one of those ones like School. I'm glad I did it, but I'll never do it again. Where I did everything, saxophone and melodicas in it, all the instruments, all the voices, it took a month of Sundays. My little girl, she sings on the end of kids' choir thing, and someone wrote, oh yeah, it's kind of all right, but it was just a bit bland or something. And I'm thinking, seriously? And again, I looked on his channel and he's got 0 subscribers and 0 and it's like, well, when you put yours up, and I subbed to his channel and I left because he had one video about it, and I said, I just want you to remember me, coming to look for this video. So I subbed you. So now when he looks, he's got this one reminder that's me. And I've gone back. I shouldn't take it so personally, but
you're right. It's so true. I see whenever there's someone in the chat who comes into a live stream and says something really shit, whenever there's a negative comment I get on the channel, or everybody experiences it. You go look on their channel and there's no content. It's always the way. And here's the problem too. When you respond to them with something clever back and think, they don't even read it. They never respond back because I don't know. It's like they must. Maybe there's a group of these people who meet every Friday. They're the one-hit comment people, and their whole goal is to like just go leave negative comments on every channel, and then they get together and show what they've done at the end of the week.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a strange phenomenon. It's odd.
Yeah. So that's why I love the AI. But I just, to be honest, I could have had 100 positive comments, but getting that one negative comment, I just didn't like it. I didn't like getting bad comments. So I that's why I stopped doing them. So you'll hear them, a hint of them now. I do find they're quite good for female backing vocals.
Yes.
They're very good, just here and there, to do it for that reason. And then I don't even really make mention of it. Yeah. And it's not any specific artist.
Well, it saves time for somebody who's a home recording enthusiast. What a great tool to have. And that's the reason I did shows on Musicfy, was I can just sing a backing vocal and then just go choose a bunch of female voices to put it to, and then make a choir of them, and I don't have to pay anyone to do it. Like, sure, there's the argument, oh, that person could be getting paid, but I wasn't going to pay someone to do it fucking anyway. So
yeah,
it's not like I'm taking food out of their mouth.
Right. Yep. And look, in those days when I've hit the big time, and I'm in this recording studio, and and Pink Floyd want me to replace Dave Gilmour, I'll be saying, well, let's get the backing singers in. I'm not doing those bits anymore. So when it comes time that it would be in a position that they can be paid, well, I'll use them. But yeah, and until I'm making money, I'll just rely on myself.
Let's play another song, and then we're going to come back and talk about the cup. It's getting to that time. I'm going to play Sandy. Do you want to tell us about Sandy?
Yeah, this was just a little ditty on a keyboard. I can't remember what I used on it, but yeah, again, similar thing. And it was more of a instrumental, so it doesn't have many words in it. That's why I called it an instrumental with words or something. But yeah, I quite like it. And again, this is another one where a lot of people commented. I think Jeff actually teared up on Metal Hippie Show because it was that bad. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But it was one of those things, and I probably sat down and made that over the course of about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours or something like that. I probably, yeah, and yeah, just nutted out. And again, with the lyrics too, if anyone's, because a lot of people say, how do you come up? I don't write any lyrics in advance. So when it comes to me doing the lyrics, the music's already done basically on the computer, or 90% of it. And I will literally have Notepad open up on my computer, and I'll just start thinking, where will words fit in here? Yep, here, there. And I'll write down the words, and I might even write down 2 lines and I'll sing them. And then I'll write down the next 2 lines and I'll sing them. And then I have the entire song done, and then I'll just sing a complete track. And depending on how good my first one was, it might act as a first track, and then if I can do a flow all the way through, I'll use that as a double, to double track. And so again, it's like I hate bursting bubbles, but I don't put that much thought into the lyrics. A lot of them are quite thought-provoking, and maybe it's something in my inner self that I have to go and talk to someone about. But I don't. Yeah, they just come out, and it could have been about chocolate cake, but it wasn't. It was just happened to be this. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful song. Let's play it. This is Sandy by Leeroy's Musical Journey. Let's do it.
They're coming to take you, Sandy. They're coming to take you, girl. They're coming to take you away. They're coming to take you, Sandy. They're coming to take you, girl. They're coming to take you away.
Very, very powerful stuff. Now, it's interesting, you said you don't put a lot into the lyrics. Writing lyrics is a fascinating thing, isn't it? Because when I write stuff, I really put a lot of effort into my words and really, it's like I'm leaving everything on the field, right, with all the songs I write. But it's forever interesting that no matter how simple you keep lyrics or how complicated you keep lyrics, people are going to take away something different than what you're saying, because we're not inside each other's heads, and people take their own things away from a song. They could have heard it when they were in a really terrible place and it meant so much to them, and they have a different meaning. What's your thoughts on explaining to people about what a song means? Because does it shatter the song for the person who's loved it for 10 years and then gone, what? I thought it meant this.
Yeah, exactly. It does. And actually that song was probably one slight exception where when I was making it, I had in my head for some reason when I was doing it, and there was a bit of a haunting part, that it was going to be They're Coming to Get You, Barbara, like what was in, I think, the Night of the Living Dead movie. They're coming to get you, Barbara. And I actually was going to do that, and I thought I couldn't be asked if, like there was some, copyright, whatever,
Yep.
And so I just had the Sandy part, and I don't know. So, again, it's like, obviously they come from me somewhere inside the lyrics, but certainly at the time, I'm not saying, oh, let's write a song about this or write a song about that, at all. And it's just that first line or second line, perhaps, that sort of dictates what the rest is just going to be. So I'll then say, oh, well, it's just got to be built on what that lyric's about, And I wish I could explain it a bit better than that, but that's really about it. But I mean, something like that, I would have done that doesn't have many lyrics in it at all. I mean, it's quite repetitive actually, but really I would have the lyrics on any of the songs I do. I would not spend more than 20 minutes doing the lyrics on any song that I do. It's just, like I said, it's a very last thing I do, and I'm singing them literally as I key in a line. I'm singing it on the computer with the mic in front of me.
Well, music doesn't have to be complicated. That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing that an engineer will tell you. If you go and pay the big bucks and sit in the studio, the first thing an engineer will turn to you and say is, you could probably pull a whole lot of that stuff out and keep this a lot more simple, because the biggest songs, the ones that stay with us the most are the ones that are simple and we're able to remember.
Mm.
You know, and it's interesting with video clips as well too, because because you're adding footage to that video we just watched, it invokes a whole different story. I mean, we've got this repeating elderly woman with a trolley and stuff. So you've got a whole new narrative that a video can create with a song.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that just comes down to what footage I can find that I haven't already used.
Shatter the fourth wall.
The next video will be someone picking their groceries, 2 bananas and,
on the Woolies app.
Yeah, exactly.
Good grief. Let's talk about the cup.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing I was watching, the first time I came across you was on Metal Head Hippie. And I'd seen your songs before, but the first time I actually really paid attention to a song, because, there's so many shows and I flit about amongst all the channels and we'll have Hippie on the background, and so I'm not always watching. But the first song I paid attention to and realised the cup was Rio Speedwagon, I Can't Fight This Feeling. And I was like, hang on a minute, is he holding a cup all the way? And then you had an image on the video of two of you both facing each other and you were both holding the cup in your hand. And then what I noticed from there on, then I went through all your collection of music. So this is about a year ago, and you just put that song out. And then I went back and started watching your videos, and I noticed at the end of each song, so you're holding the cup and you're singing your vocals, but at the end of every song, it ends and you go, it's like a full stop at the end of the song, like an exclamation point of you putting down the, and I just thought it was absolutely adorable. So is it do you do it, is it, because me and Laurie laugh at it heaps. Laurie's so much fun. We can't stop laughing about the cup. Is it a conscious thing?
I think it was the fact that I'm always drinking coffee, so I will always have a coffee. It's as simple as that. I drink far too much coffee. Yeah, that's for sure. And so I find too, it just keeps my hand occupied. I mean, what would I do with that arm if I wasn't? Don't ask. Yeah. And and so what I do with that hand, I feel awkward. So it's good just to hold it. Yeah.
I love it. It's become a thing. Have you ever thought of selling merch? Because everyone's selling cups these days. I just think it would be the best merch.
I shouldn't I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just the Leeroy cup. I'd get a kick out of seeing it. I would. Yeah, I should do that.
I would buy one. I would have my Leeroy's cup thing. I mean,
thanks, Jade.
Absolutely. And I know when I would go into a studio, I always had to have something in my hands. I would always have, because we didn't have mobile phones back then, even if I didn't need the lyrics, see, there you go, putting it down at the end of the song. But I used to find holding something in my hands really helped with being able to, I don't know, it's like holding on a ride or something. For me, I used to do that. These days I don't, because I've got an iPad in front of me with the lyrics. I don't use paper anymore. I'm anti-paper and all this stuff here in this house. But yeah.
How did that go when you had a poo this morning? Was it?
Well, there's some places paper has to exist.
Oh, that's okay.
One of my friends uses bum wipes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when he told me that, how do we get here? I'm like, I hope you don't flush them down the toilet. And he's like, no, I'll put them in a wastebasket next to the toilet. I'm like,
oh,
what? Really? Does anyone else in the chat do that? Is this a new thing? Is this a Zoomer thing? I don't know. I just couldn't imagine that. But look, I love the cup. I think it's a great thing. And Lily Pillar says this is a shitty conversation. I'll give you a drum for that, Manny. But yeah, I do love the cup, and there it is. And I have got sight gags here today. Look, I've got 4 cups, and I've been changing them all the way through.
You might have 4 cups, but I can see 5 mugs.
They are mugs. I really. Somebody's going to pull me up on that. They go, they're mugs, sir.
You're one of them.
I am the biggest mug here. So, All right. What was I going to cover next? Because I'm going to play. I've got 2 more songs to play, so we want to play one more before the last song. Just let me check. What have I got here lined up? Professional show here. Absolutely professional, 100%. So we were going to do that one. I've got that one. And I was going to end on this one. Yes, that's what I'm going to end on. Cool. And all right, so we'll do that one next. All right, so recording your gear. What is your? So you've mentioned Cubases. What's your interface? What's the gear that you use to get everything going?
Yeah, I buy stuff really that's cheap and when there's an opportunity. So I'm using just Native Instruments. Oh, I think it's like a Audio 6 or something for the interface.
Yeah.
I've got a what's the other brand? What's the big one? The red ones. They come in the red.
The Scarlets.
Yes, yeah, I got one of those knocking about somewhere, but I do like this Audio 6. Lots of inputs, and it was blooming cheap. Yeah, so that's my primary audio interface. I use predominantly an Akai MPK61, and again, merely because I knew they were good, but more because it was cheap secondhand. I think I paid something stupid like $150 for it. Yeah, and then I've got a couple of keyboards behind me. Yamaha DX7, which works, and a Yamaha SY35, really. So yeah, and I've got this fascination with collecting the mini keyboards, like the Yamaha Porta Sounds and the Casio,
the little 25 key things.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got a few of those. Yeah, like 8 or 9 of those little things there. They're cute.
I just did a show this week on an app that is a replica, an SY85, and man, the sounds from some of these keyboards in the 80s and 90s, they're pretty fucking incredible.
Yeah,
they still hold the and when you hear them, you hear so much of the songs from the past that you just go, oh, that's where that sound came from. I mean, for the 80s, everybody had one of those fucking SY85s.
Yeah. And that's what I love about like the Arturia and all the plugins, and they call them different names because of probably legal
copyright.
Yeah, and you go, oh, that's Hungry Like the Wolf, or that's Rio, or that's this song, and all these, different presets that have been done to sound like them. My fondest memory of the Yamaha DX7 is actually Bronski Beat's Small Town Boy. I used to love that song.
Wow, Bronski Beat. I haven't heard that name for a while.
I used to love that song, yeah. And that's my fondest memory of a DX7, actually. I think is in that song. Yeah, so I had to have. It was one of those things I had to have. They're pretty, by today's standards, they're lousy, and if I'm going to use that, I use it the MIDI output, and I use I don't know, I think Arturia DX7 plugin. It's because otherwise I've got to record like a wave output, and it doesn't allow for fixing my dodgy notes quite as easily.
Yeah, but you've got guitars there, right? So now you say to me. So you had an understanding of the keys, a C's next to a B and all that kind of stuff. How long have you been playing guitar for?
I've pretty much properly been playing guitar, I'd say from about the age of about 12 was where I started to take it a bit seriously.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking you can't have just picked up guitar in the last 2 years and be able to play some of the stuff that you play.
No, I have. That's one of those things where I have. I've picked up, is the guitar.
Well, Cold Acre wants to see your strats.
Yeah. So I've got. In fact, I'll just move this a sec.
Yeah.
There.
Holy boy! Look at them all.
So I got a few there. I always get confused which way. That's it. So the one on.
You got the same rack as me.
You caught me checking out your rack. Sorry, I sort of just got a boom. Yeah, I think the one on the left is like a Hank Marvin signature thing. And the one next to it there on the right, that's my main one. That's a 1988 Strat Plus. I bought that for $1,300 about 20 years ago now. It's just, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's hard to justify spending that money on, a cheaper Fender new one when you can buy something that's just got a bit of history and back to it. And and a few over there as well.
Got a banjo as well.
Yeah. So the banjo's made it into a few songs. That was something I really picked up this year. It was just one of those things that a song needed a banjo, similar to when a song needed a saxophone. I thought, I'll buy a saxophone. So I drove to the other side of Melbourne.
I'll just buy a saxophone.
And picked it up. It was $50, and it's good enough for me to play on some. I'm selective what I play because, it's hard, but So, and I think I've got some just in this cupboard here as well.
Oops, we lost your camera.
Yeah, I've got some in there tucked away.
We lost your camera there.
Lost my camera.
Yep. Did you come unplugged? Oh, did we lose the whole thing? Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, there you are. We've lost your camera.
Am I back?
Not yet. Your sound is back, but your camera is still off. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So you just can't see me.
Yeah. We just, I don't think I can fix you from here.
Never worked with children's animals or me.
Is your camera still plugged in, or did you loosen it when you're moving it around?
No, it's plugged in.
Do you see an image?
No.
We try unplugging it, plugging it back in.
I've done that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How do we bring you back? I don't know. See if I can. Maybe if I try. Oh, hang on. It's coming.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Rock and roll. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. So hang on. I just want to ask about the sax. So had you played sax?
No. I just thought I'll learn, and so just buy one and just learn. I mean, everything follows. I mean, that's the thing. It follows like the notes. It's kind of like a recorder, but you just got to blow harder.
Yeah, so. It's hard, man. I've got a few blowy instruments, and biting and getting that right tension, and it's hard.
Yeah, I bought a clarinet, but that's even harder.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's really getting that sweet spot. I find so much harder that I kind of gave up. Plus, it's so loud too. I have to be very careful, and selective. It's like when everyone's out of the house, is when I'll try, and that's not very often.
Yeah, I bought a violin and never played it, and I've tried to. I watch a lot of YouTube videos because you can learn so much on YouTube. I learned how to tune it and get the resin going, and I spent a lot of time on this. Clearly, but I just can't get the fingering. I'm going down a dark path here. I really struggle with getting the neck is so small and the thing's so light. I'm so used to playing guitars. I'm scared I'm going to snap the neck because I'm such a hard metal player. And I always fear that every time I'm playing it, that everybody in my neighborhood hates my guts because it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. I admire you for just doing that. It blows my mind. Totally blows my mind that you just go out and do that.
Yeah, I can't explain that, and that's where the missus just sometimes she just shakes her head and says, "How can you do that?" If you play a song, I will just pick up and I'll play it in the first 20 seconds. I've pretty much worked it out, and the same with a harmonica too. I've got about 7 or 8 harmonicas. I find that every song I do with a harmonica is that has one is in a different key to the harmonica I've got. So I then another one and another one. So I cannot explain. I just put it to my mouth and I just blow the tune, whatever I have to do. And it goes, and the missus says, how do you do that? And I said, I don't know. I've got no idea. I just play it. Yeah, couldn't tell.
I think with people too, there is a degree of natural talent that, you know, there are some people out there who can just pick things up really quickly and just feel it. I mean, it is interesting that, you know, a piano has the same scales as a guitar, so it's not too hard. Like, I've only been playing keys since I started this show. And I remember when I first opened a synth on this channel and was like, I think this is an oscillator. I don't know what a filter does. Now I'm all about synths. I'm so into synths and oscillators and filters and amp envelopes, and but there's so many of them. It melts my brain. There's too many synths there and not enough time in the world.
Oh, and that's such an art form, isn't it? To like even just knowing all those. Like I watch Alex Ball. I don't know if you watch Alex Ball on YouTube. And, you know, he reviews so many of those classic things, and he's all over them, and he knows what this does and all, you know, saws and whether they're squares or I get a bit lost on all that. I admire so many people that like yourself that are into that and can do that. I'm never sure on how to get there. I just know in my head the sound I want.
I'm going to kick off a new show here on the channel starting this Sunday because there's reasons for me doing it, and it's I'm going to do a weekly rant about a topic, because I feel like on this channel, you know, we do lots of app reviews and interviews and performances. There's so much stuff, but I feel there's something missing from the channel. There's normally a topic every week I want to say something about.
I know what it is: environmental toilet paper.
No. But you can come on 1 week and we can talk about it if you'd like. We can talk about the joy of the morning shit. How about that? But, you know, and one of the things that's been burning in my head, because I do a show nearly every day, how to app, is all these new things that we're constantly bombarded with. New instruments, new guitars, buy this, buy that, buy this. And it can get a bit fucking overwhelming because you just want to make music. Do you get sucked into all of that? Are you constantly buying plugins and things like that?
I've had my share now. I think I'm up to where I've bought any plugin I'm pretty much going to use. I mean, you reach a point where you're just not going to use them. And I think sometimes you end up being then a little bit less creative when you're just looking for another source of plugin. So I just sticking with what I've got, which is quite a vast amount too, and it's quite expensive, really.
So you have been like that in the past.
Yeah. I was buying them, you know, because you start off too with a clean slate and you got a MIDI keyboard, and that's great. Well, what do you do? And then you sort of say, oh yeah, I'll buy these. Watch, you know, and you see this plugin. Oh yeah, I've got to get that, and then another one. You realise then that one plugin will do the same as another. It's just renamed, and I've got enough now that it covers off on, you know, anything I could pretty much need. Omnisphere is one that I've got too, you know, that really, which is just ridiculous. I mean, you could almost just get by just using Omnisphere.
Yeah. Stuff. There's a lot of apps like that. You mentioned Arturia before. Their suite is like insane. You could buy that, pay the money, and you don't need anything else.
Yeah,
I see it a lot, like across communities, not only just iOS, but a lot of YouTube channels and stuff who are showing new products. There does, like the commenters who leave negative shit and have nothing on their channel, there does seem to be a lot of people who are so invested in purchasing plugins and apps and things and always complaining about what they don't have on channels and in forums. And then you go look at their profiles and go, you have no music.
Yeah.
Are you just buying all these things and not making anything with it? And I think there is a subsect of people out there doing that, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you can sit there and just, like you said at the beginning of the show, you can sit down and bang out a song in 2 hours, and there's people out there who are spending hours and hours buying all this shit and they can't bang out one song.
Well, it's that saying, isn't it? Like, remember that saying, all the gear and no idea, or
absolutely.
Something like, you know, like, and it's good to have. It certainly helps, but it's not going to. I think the thing is that ultimately is it's not going to make you play any better. I'm not going to pick up a guitar and play any better just because it's plugged in and it's got some effect. That's like I can use and I do have numerous sort of sounds, so you plug it in and your guitar makes you sound like Andy, Summers from the Police or whatever guitar, or Brian May, or make you sound like this. But unless I can play like them, it's not going to sound like it. So.
Yeah, and the Lily Pillies, Manny's just put a comment here in the chat, says, I don't have a lot of gear or plugins. And this week I was chatting with Manny and he sent me a photo of his current vocal studio setup. It was freaking a stool with a laptop and a microphone in a corner of a room. And for anyone who's heard the Lily Pillies music, it's next level.
Yeah. Absolutely mint, isn't it?
It's next level shit, man. And that's his setup. And that just proves it. Like Ron and Jenny, Ron sits there recording vocals from time to time in his car. And hear their songs at Wolfstone Studio, you're just like, but you're right. All the gear, no idea. It is true these days. But then, it depends. Like gear is one of these things I'm really interested in talking about at the moment because I have a lot of it, and a lot of it doesn't get used like it should. And I feel very bad about that.
But having said that, I mean, we all want to buy stuff, don't we? Like, it's no different to that DX7 up there, like it's a nostalgia. I'll buy more things out of nostalgia when it comes to, like instruments, I think. Than because I really want one.
Yeah.
If that makes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like the violin, I just really wanted a violin.
Yeah.
And then I got it, was like, wow, I'm scared I'm going to break it. All right, we're going to wrap this up. And the last thing I want to ask you before I hit you with the final question is, have you considered releasing all your music like through a distro, through someone like DistroKid, and actually putting this stuff on Apple and Spotify? Because I want to have your music on a fucking Apple Music playlist.
Yeah, one day I might do it. Yeah, I just, sometimes you just self-doubt yourself. And again, I'm fairly new into this, and I just really didn't think that it was anything that I would be either capable of doing or would think that people would want to listen to it, to be perfectly honest. It was just, YouTube was just a way of putting music out there and doing something I enjoy. But yeah, that was the extent of it. So, it'd be great. Yeah, I will one day. I'll get.
Please do, because you're missing from my. My Apple Music collection it used to be all my favorite bands from the 80s and 90s, and now I go through my Apple Music collection, and it's everybody who's here in the chat, and it's all these people. It's just taken over, and you're missing from my collection because you write really fantastic stuff. I mean, I'm not shitting in your pocket because we've already had enough shit talk today, but no, you're one of these artists who from the get-go, every time there's something that you release is very, very professional, very hard-hitting, sentimental, either hits you in the feels or you're just blown away by the technicality of it. And I love seeing your videos where you've got all these parts that you're playing. It just blows I love people who can do everything by themselves, because it blows me away. I'm such an anti-band person these days. I've played in bands and I can't be married to 5 people anymore. That's right. It's too much work.
I can only be disappointed with myself if I don't do something right.
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather that than be disappointed with someone else. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love doing collabs and all this sort of stuff, but there's nothing better than just relying on yourself, because then no one can let you down.
Yeah, absolutely. And Manny says here, blessed to have worked with Leeroy, Hugh Caldwell, me too. I mean, you've worked with some amazing people in this community, and I implore everybody, if you haven't gone subbed up Leeroy, please go do so. The links are in the description. Thomas has been putting them out in the chat all the way through. If you're watching on the replay, do all of that, because he's only got one place to go, and that's YouTube. That's the only link he has. And
buy my mugs when they come out.
Yes, I'll if you release them, I'll do a whole show on them for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I will. You put them out at the start of every show for a week. I'll advertise it.
Oh, beautiful.
So because I think everybody should have a Leeroy's Musical Journey cup for when they're doing their vocals. I can just see myself sitting here going, even with no liquid in it, just going, oh, yes. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your workflow, part of your life, and how you do all this stuff, because it's incredible.
But I appreciate it. I'm super humbled. And the last time I was interviewed had a cautioned rights at the beginning of it. So I'm appreciate it. So thank you. Thanks very much.
I'm just glad you came on. So thank you so much. Now, I'm going to hit with the last question that I hit everybody with. Lee, if you were giving advice to somebody who's starting out making music, when would be the best time for them to start?
If you're talking about learning an instrument, just getting in, it's got to be from, I think, as early as possible. It's almost, so that it's almost inbred then, as they grow up. I've always that same thing, I've just always had sort of music around, and knowing where the notes are and everything like that has always just helped me so much. Get on board. The theory is good. Doing theory is good. I learn everything by ear and play. Rarely will I refer to tablature and everything, because I find half the time it's wrong anyway, and I can just work it out quicker myself. But it's that learning how music works and how scales work and all that, and circles and fifths, all that sort of malarkey. It sounds like rubbish, but it actually is extremely helpful. I hated music in high school. I absolutely despised it, because it's like, where are the guitars? Why aren't we playing this? Why can't I play Thunderstruck or something? Because you sat down learning, tone, semitone, tone, semitone. And it's like, well, when's that going to help? Well, it does help, because, it makes my job quite easy now. So
I'm just happy you said the word malarkey.
Gary Malarkey. Remember Gary Malarkey?
Yes.
I
I think I used the word malarkey this week in one of my shows, and somebody said, malarkey, haven't heard that for a while.
Yeah, and kerfuffle.
They use kerfuffle in AFL. I hear that all the time. Oh, there's a kerfuffle on the field. All these big meaty dudes punching each other, and the guy goes, "Oh, look at the kerfuffle."
Yes.
Call it what it is, man. It's a brawl. We're getting off track. We're going to go out. Metal Head Hippies arrived here late. Said, sorry you missed the show. Boom. Well, you've always got the replay, Jeff. So I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out. Thanks for spending some time with us today. I hope you really enjoyed the show. Tomorrow on the channel, we've got a look at... We're taking our second look. Let me try and bring up some information here before we get off, and I have to do the advertising stuff. So tomorrow we are doing our second look at... let's see if I can bring this up properly. There we go. At Final Cut Pro, we're going to take a look at animation, filters, transitions, and effects on the iPad, how to do all that stuff. Last week, we looked at the basics of Final Cut Pro. So we'll come back and have a little bit more of a look at that. And then on the weekend, yes, folks, I'll be back doing Community Covers number 4. And we've only got about 10 songs left on this before I've sung everyone's song. So that's happening. And next week, we got some really cool things happening, let me tell you. So instead of an interview next week, we are premiering the brand new Lily Pilly's album here on the channel. We've got a documentary that we're going to play showing Manny and the gang talking about the production process and everything. Then Manny's going to come and join us on the show, and we're going to throw some hard-hitting questions at him and get some questions from you guys. And we're going to play some of the songs from the album. So very excited about that. Can't wait. I've seen the video, and man, this album is going to be really, really good. A little bit darker than the last album, in my opinion, too. But it's good stuff. All right, so let's get out of here now. I've got a song to play us out. If I get my proverbial shit together. This is to a major key. You want to give us a little bit of a story before we go on this?
Yes, the same as all the others. I just sat there and went bing, bing, bing. That's
bleep,
about it.
Bleep, bleep,
yeah.
blop, blop.
Yeah. No, what I do like about this, I do like songs in 3/4 time. I actually have a few in 3/4 time. So bless Mrs. T Taz, my music teacher. again, and yeah, so I like 3/4 time. It's got a nice feel to it. This one isn't 3/4. I think it'd be awkward if it wasn't. I'll watch your head tapping. Yeah, and so yeah, much the same as the others. The lyrics just come last. I don't know what it's about, but I'm sure it was soppy potentially. Yeah, so that's that in a nutshell. I do quite like this one though, and I did actually take it from a minor to a major key, hence this title. So that part is actually based on fact. I think it goes from an A minor to an A.
No conspiracy theories in this one.
Yeah, fascinating.
All right, well, hang on the line with me here to the end of the show so I can say goodbye to you off the show. All right, guys, remember, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better, and we'll all rise together. This is To A Major Key. Thank you, Leeroy, for coming on the show, and let's do it right now with a big boom. Oh, yeah. See ya.
As I sit in the dark, there's a light that I cannot see. It's that ray of hope that's far from me. That's far from me. Can't shine a torch, but the space is still so dark. It's the same as me. I've lost all my spark. I've lost all my spark. I need to go from a minor to a major key. You can write all the notes, and I will hum out the tune. We'll be home soon. Words, they will come when I say. Won't take long till the end of the day to make this a happy song. Last of the fuel's been used. Maybe I should hit you right, but there's no room for two. So I'll stay here with you. I need to go from a minor to a major key. Can write all the notes, and I will hum out the tune. We'll be home soon. Words, they will come when I say. Won't take long till the end of the day. It's a happy song. A blistered man, but we're home and together now. For free to stay forever. I've nothing else planned. I've nothing else planned. Need to go from a minor to a major we'll all rise together. 'Cause you make me shine better